What's up, guys? Welcome back to the ASAP Automotive channel, and today we're going to be giving a little bit more go-go juice to the old LSTJ, so stay tuned. So as you guys saw from the other video where we had this thing on the dyno, we quickly realized the problem we kind of knew we already had, but the dyno really told us the truth, is we were running out of fuel really quick. So whenever we did this project, just to keep things going, get everything set up and all that, we did the whole Novak, mod their kit and everything with the hat for the fuel pump module to bring up the fuel pressure from about 40-45 on up to about 60 psi where this LS engine needs. So that's all fine and dandy. We changed the socks in there and everything, made sure everything's cleaned out. It got us by, got the thing rolling, got us to drive it and all that stuff. But it just can't handle under load. We just literally runs out of fuel. And so at that point, we decided it's time to go to the old reliable, a Walboro 255. And this is a legitimate Walboro 255 made in the good old USA. So we're going to really let the bald eagle scream in this one. Now this kit comes with everything we got here. It's got all the different socks in it and everything. This one's got a couple in it. And it's got this little divider in the module where the pump goes down through. Down in there, you'll see in a little bit. Even came with a nice new ring for the top. So we'll have all the information below as to where we got this kit from and the part number and all that. But for now, time being, let's go ahead and get at tearing this thing apart. All right, so as with about anything you're doing on a vehicle, you normally always want to disconnect your battery first. So we're going to come over here and disconnect our negative. We got these kicker battery ends because they really helped with the multiple cables and all that stuff. Yours might look a little bit different. So we're going to go ahead and take this off. And remember, you always want to take your negative off first, not your positive. We don't need to take the positive loose. We got the negative off. That way we don't have any possibility of any power going back there. Because the last thing you want is any spark when you're working around fuel. So now we got this thing on a lift. We've gone over this before with you guys. Make sure if you're doing something like this, make sure your vehicle is secured and lifted properly, wheel chocks, all that stuff. Don't be trying to do this in your driveway like this. So we got the disclaimer, don't be an idiot. So. All right, so before we get to the drop in the tank, one of the first things we want to do now that we disconnected the battery, is going to go over here and release fuel pressure. Remember, especially doing stuff like this, always wear your safety glasses. Don't be an idiot. So just push the Schrader valve in, get a nice little squirt like that. Always good to get a little bit of squirt there. And next thing we're going to do is go on to the back, and we're going to go ahead and remove our fuel cap and then our filler neck bezel back there, so we make sure when we're dropping the tank, none of that stuff's fighting us. So stay tuned. All right, so first thing you'll do is remove your fuel cap. Most of these don't have a tether on them, but in case yours does, you can pop it off. This one's just got 4 Phillips head screws here. You could do just these 4 here. I'm going to do all of them and just go ahead and get the bezel out of the way. Makes it a lot easier trying to fish that thing in and up out of there. So let's go ahead and get at it. Run these out. Have you got a little magnetic parts tray by it where you can keep all this stuff. Cool. Now, I forgot, I guess we're missing one on here. Put one of these cute billet covers on here. It'll come with hardware. We don't have to worry about that, right? So, cool. So that's what it looks like there. Got it nice and open. You got plenty of room to move it around. A nice big open hole. You can just kind of remove your neck all in around there as you need. That's going to be a lot more helpful when you're inserting it back up in the hole later on. So now we're going to go ahead and work on pulling it out. That being said, we're going to go ahead and lift this thing up. All right. So back here we've got our electrical connection, which is our power and ground and all that fun stuff to the pump. And for our sending unit and all that fun jazz, we've got our main supply line here of pressure coming out of the pump assembly. You have this little this little vent hose here. We did away with that and did a different vent system with this whenever we did this pump. But if you've got a regular Jeep, then you'll have this here, this little hose here, and it's a vent hose. It's part of the evap system. This would work great for a stock Jeep. If you just want a little bit more fuel or a little bit bump on your 4.0 or 2.5 or something like that, it'd be plenty. But obviously in this situation, it was a necessity for us. We've already released our fuel pressure up there, so we're going to go ahead and push in these 2 clips. You'll hear a nice little click clack, and go ahead and pull out. which might be a little bit fun here, a little tight. A little bit longer than I thought, but there we go. There we go. Okay, get all kind of good feel all over you. It's always nice to have some good gloves on. Now we've got this little red locking tab back here. It's kind of hard to see. We're going to go ahead and pull it down. And that's about as far as it goes. And then you've got release here. And then this bad boy plugs out. As you can see, you've got your little red tab that we pulled out there. Then you just depress this tab, go ahead and release it. And then that's your two there. We've already got our filler neck loose up there. And so now we're going to go ahead and work on, we're going to go ahead and get our jack underneath here, because we're going to pull this shield assembly off and drop this whole bad boy out at once. All right, so now we've got our lines, our electrical loose. Our, like I was saying earlier, our vent line, we have an anti-rollover, or a rollover valve that it's a vent for the fuel system. So we did away with the evap system just for simplicity's sake. And as we talked about in earlier videos, we ran that rollover valve hidden up in there, so it vents like it should. If the vehicle does roll over, it shuts off or closes, so we don't have gas everywhere. Now what we're going to do is go ahead and pump it up. We're going to go ahead and get our jack underneath here. Support this because the whole shebang, the tank and the shield all come down as one. So we're going to go ahead and drop that all at once, and then we can get access to our fuel pump. All right, so now we got our tank down. We got our two lines off of here. Granted, if you got a stock Jeep, yours is obviously going to look a little different than this, but this is ours with the Novak stuff that we did for jacking up the fuel pressure. We got our two lines off of here. We're going to go ahead and pop our harness off here. I'll have to get a pocket screwdriver or screwdriver in there for that. And then you've got this plastic ring that you're going to go ahead and knock loose. They make funky special tools for this and stuff, but I don't have one, so we're just going to go ahead and knock this thing on loose and go ahead and pull it up, and that way we can get in there to our actual fuel pump. Now we got our fuel pump module out here on the bench. We got a couple rags laid out, so it's a nice and clean area. One of the first things you want to do is go ahead and disconnect your fuel level sensor here and your sending unit there. Next thing you got is you got these three tangs that come down. They've got little tits on the inside. We want to get past the tits and then come on up and just pull out like so. And just a little cut there. Are we hung up? Oh yeah, we're hung up on the tip. All right, cool. And it comes out like now. So you can see we got our cute little strainer there. We got the cardboard piece there. And this is where we're going to put our new pump on in. All right, so now we've got the pump out of the actual housing here. We've got our main power connection for the pump, which should go directly over to the new one. You've got your little maxi pad down here, your little sock. We're just going to go ahead and wiggle that bad boy off. If it will, probably not. It's going to be a butt head. Hey, there we go. All right, now we popped our little bottom sock off of there. We're going to go ahead and pop this little thing on past that. Just kind of work in around there because we got to reuse that rubber. All right, now we got a little maxi pad off the bottom there. We're going to go ahead and take our black rubber piece here and go ahead and move it over to the new pump. Notice it's got a little ring around it there. You got the little opening. You stick your nipple through there and slide it on like so. Then you got this little retaining washer that comes with it. It's kind of hard to see, but it's beveled out this way. It's designed to go on with the bevel up, so that way it'll catch and doesn't want to come back up, much like this one didn't on the old pump there. So we're going to go ahead and slide that on What works really well is like a 5mm socket, slide it on over, and then just push it on down like so. And that way you got good pressure against your rubber there, and it won't go sliding around on you. You go to move the, put your little sock back on. What you're gonna do is you got your little V here that points to your little groove there. And you're going to go ahead and pop it up. You might want to put a little bit of lube before you try to slide it in there. That might fight you a bit, trying to, it's a little bit big for the hole. But we'll see if we can get it back in there. Might have to do a little bit of finagling, but worst case, a little bit of lube goes a long way. I'm not gonna lie, now it's kind of a matter of principle. And there we go. Even though it was a little bit big for the hole, we managed to slide it on in. And we got the outer ring there to pop out. The lip to catch on side so our pad won't come sliding off. Now we're good there. Now one of the next things we want to do, we're going to pull our little protective cap off there. We got our connection. We got this little cardboard piece here we're not going to reuse because they sent us a new one in the kit, which is awesome. We're going to slide that bad boy over, and let's see, make sure we get it aligned right. Obviously up is up. Got our connection lined up there. Slide it on like, yeah, and there you go. Fits a little loose on there, but at least you get the point. So now we're going to go ahead and slide this tube here right on over on the nipple on the new pump and put our spring back in place. And go ahead and come on around like so and stick it down in the spring. And that just slides over that protrusion there. It's going to push out on you a little bit, but it's fine. When you go back into the housing, it'll all push together. Go ahead and plug your pump in. And at that point, we're good to go ahead and stick it back down in there. Cardboard things are useless. And once again, just bring your tabs right on past your little tits on the housing. Once you get past the tits, you're good to go. And what you want to do is make sure, try to get in there with a good light and make sure the tube didn't come off anything. Make sure you're all good there, because it's a lot easier to figure that out and fix it now than to drop the tank back out of it. But now we got it popped back in and locked in. We're going to go ahead and plug our sending unit back up. Make sure that's good to go. And you know, our tabs are back in, that's plugged in, our sending unit. Now, this sock here, this little pad on the bottom, we're not changing because we literally just changed this when we did the pump. We were putting everything together. We don't have a ton of miles on this thing yet. So I mean, it's basically brand new, still good and clean. And the kit didn't actually come with this. So if you're ordering this and you're doing this for your Jeep, you might want to make sure you've got this extra one. And if you'll notice in the kit, they sent us two different types. Obviously, this is the one we use. It's in there now. But this is the other one. You can see the mouth is a lot bigger. And I think that was the one. Yeah, I think that's the one that goes on the bottom. So there's a couple of different ones for the bottom. And that's the one that was in there before, so we used that one. So there's a couple of different options. I'd recommend go ahead and getting both from the parts store. That way when you get it tore apart, because it's probably going to be like this, where it's 8, 9 o'clock at night, and parts store might be closed, you can't get to them, or they won't have it, and you got your Jeep tore apart. So it's a lot easier to just return it later. That being said, it's all back together. Now the fun part of, we're going to put our rubber back in on the tank. We're going to get the actual new one that this one came with, and go ahead and stick this whole thing down in and we're going to put our tank back up. All right, so now we got our sending unit back in. Quick tip on that, you might want to slide your rubber over the actual sending unit itself and then slide it on down in and make it a lot easier. It'll try to roll on in and tear. going back in. That'll give you some serious bad luck there. You'll end up with a fuel leak, and you don't want that. That way, and make sure your sending unit's all set down. You've got a nice little arrow here on the top that it's pointing to. That's pointing to this valley here, this crevice in the side. You want to line that up. That puts everything where you need it. That puts your float, all that stuff where it can function. This is one of the reasons I hate these stupid plastic rings. They're the biggest pain in the butt to get back on and get started. I think we actually lucked out and got this one going first. So I'm going to spin it as far as I can by hand and then finish it off with the hammer. And of course it wants to spin on me. So. All right, so now we got everything back together. We got our battery hooked up. What we're going to do is check the fuel pressure on this thing and make sure everything's working hunky-dory with that. So we got our fuel pressure gauge hooked up to our Schrader valve there where we released pressure earlier. And what we're going to do is cycle the key. Now, it's going to take a couple key cycles to go ahead and build pressure on up. Oh, we want to make sure this thing isn't jumping on up well past 60 or anything crazy. We're going to go ahead and cycle it a couple more times. And our regulator's doing what it should. It's holding at about 58 psi, almost 60 there for us. And then coming down to about 50. So now what we're going to do is go ahead and start it and watch our pressures and see what it does. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. About right where you want to be on one of these GM motors. Is right around 58-60 psi, and it's going to be bleeding a little bit of air out of the system. It purged most of it out, but there'll be a little bit trapped in there, being that this is a returnless style system. But now we should have plenty of fuel pressure and fuel volume, which is really what we're after. So we can go back to the dyno now, see what she does, and hopefully make a little bit more power and not lean out so bad. The 255 is a good safe bet. It's just a good all-around pump. You know, it's not too much. You get up past like a 340 or some stuff like that, you really got to start making some upgrades. This 255, we're still able to run this, stock lines and stuff that we got, and we should be good. We're running stock injectors in this thing and all, so it should put us right about where we'll be. Proof's going to be in the pudding when we get to the dyno and see the new numbers. So hopefully one of the next videos you'll see is be us back at the dyno going for round 2 and see what this thing will do. Alright guys, that's a wrap on another video here in the LSTJ series as we continue to finish this project and grow with it and make some changes as we go. This definitely seems got like a little bit more pep in it, a little bit happier, but the dyno is really going to tell, so hopefully we'll have another dyno day video here soon. But remember, until then, next time, stock is not an option.